Welcome to Marketing Made Simple TV. I'm Jeff Ogden, the host of the show, and I'm thrilled to have you back for another great show and another great guest on the show. And we're really excited about today's guest. Jeff Sands is a VP with ITSMA, and he heads their account-based marketing practice. And I got to say, Jeff is not a young guy. He worked for many years for a digital equipment company. And I got to tell you, that's a company name I haven't heard in a very long time. So it's good to hear it. And he was one of the founding members of ITSMA. And he did a lot of work at Digital Equipment Corporation. Did anybody remember Ken Olson anymore? But anyway, let's welcome Jeff to the show and have a nice chat.
Well, thank you, Jeff. It's great to be here.
Oh, it's exciting to have you on the show, Jeff. And I'm going to start you off with the question I ask every guest on the show. Is very simple. Who are you and what do you do?
It's great to be here. And thank you all for participating in this program. My name is Jeff Sands, and my role here at ITSMA, and ITSMA is the IT Services Marketing Association, is to lead a practice around what we call account-based marketing.
Great, Jeff, and I'm interested to learn more about it. Now, one of the things which you said, I attended one of your events, and you said that the buyers have bifurcated. There's two different types of buyers. What do you mean by that?
This is a very interesting phenomenon, Jeff, because at ITSMA we've been doing research around this for many years, and we track trends and changes that are taking place in the market. And what we found a couple of years ago in this is that the people who make the decisions and influence the decisions, that market has bifurcated itself into what we call the traditional buyer. And these are the people that we, in the past, have always sold and marketed to. They consume information the way they always have in the past. But we saw this new market segment and this new segment of decision makers evolving. And we call those the B2B social buyers. And they consume information very differently, they learn about you very differently, and what's really important is they want to interact with you very differently. They depend more on what we call today the social media and the social channels than the traditional buyer does.
So interesting research, Jeff. How does a company understand which of their buyers are social buyers and which are more traditional buyers? I mean, that's useful information to know, so how does a company learn that information?
Very interesting question, Jeff. And that really forms the basis of what account-based marketing is. Because account-based marketing mandates that you really understand the client, what's going on inside of the client organization, what are the issues, what are the pressures that they're facing, how are they being impacted by what's going on in the markets that they serve, and then looking inside of the company and identifying the people inside of the company that are charged with addressing the issues that we have identified. And once we understand that, we can then profile the people and the role that they play inside of the organization. And what's very interesting is that, as you would expect, the bifurcation of the market breaks down, and I almost hate to say it, given all my gray hair, but it breaks down by age. And what we found is that people who are typically 45 and under fall into this B2B social buyer because they've grown up with more access to networking and communications and technology. And the more traditional buyers are the ones that are somewhat more experienced and older. But what we find is that when these B2B social buyers are being held accountable to address the issues that have been identified, that gives us a sense of how to start to market and communicate and sell to them versus the traditional buyer.
Interesting, Jeff, and I'll take a little issue with older people and their feelings with social media, because if I go into HubSpot's Twitter grader, it grades you on a score from 0 to 100, I get 100, and I'm over 50 years old, so I just want to make that point, okay? And I work for Burroughs, too, but you know, you live, you grow, you adapt, and I think that's important for all of us. So tell us about how ABM works. And I used to handle GE for a software company, and I understand the need for customer intimacy and putting things in their terms. So tell us a little bit about how ABM works.
Thank you, Jeff. And it's a very interesting question, a very interesting process, because the basis of ABM mandates outside-in thinking. You know, traditional marketing says, we've got these products, we've got these solutions, and we're going to go sell them and market them, and we push this information out to the market. And then we go out and try to figure out if anybody is really listening to what we're saying. Account-based marketing is very different. It starts with an outside-in perspective. So let's take GE, but GE is not really one account. GE is multiple accounts. And let's pick one. Let's say GE Healthcare. We always start with a look at what's going on in the world of healthcare and how is that impacting the market that GE Healthcare sits in and sells in and competes in. And we all know that there are many things happening in the world of healthcare. And we say, how is that impacting GE? That's step number one. Step number two is, what actions is GE Healthcare taking to respond to those issues? And here's where we start to take a look at what's going on inside the company and what initiatives are taking place that are helping GE Healthcare address those market issues that we identified initially. The third thing we look at is who inside of GE is being held accountable for that initiative to address the problem. Once we identify this, we then sort of have permission to bring us into the picture. And the question we ask is, if this person is being held accountable, and we sort of have an idea of who this person is, what role they play in the organization, we then say, what is it we can do to help this person with that initiative to address the problem we've identified? So what you're seeing here is a process of connecting dots. And once we have a good understanding of this and we sort of map all of this together, we now have a good basis for new messaging, new value propositions, new targeted campaigns, and new programs. This is what makes ABM different from traditional marketing.
Very interesting. And also, GE is a good example, and I'll mention that Beth Comstock, the CMO of GE, was a guest on this show earlier. So I encourage anyone to go back and watch the Beth Comstock show if you want to learn about GE. Now, you had, one thing I'll also mention, you had shared some slides, and if you want to use any of those, just tell Craig to display them, and he will, any of them you want to use in the show. But let's talk about, you shared some examples of this, and I think, if I recall, Microsoft did an interesting ABM project. Can you tell us about their experience with it and how it worked for them, the kind of results they got?
Very interesting. Microsoft has been working with ITSMA for many years. In fact, we helped them initially design their ABM program. And that's a very interesting point. I just want to spend 2 minutes talking about that, because everybody's ABM program is different. Every company is different, every business model is different, every culture is different. And ABM really has to map to your culture. So we spent a lot of time with Microsoft, as we do with other organizations, in helping them design and define what ABM is to them. And there are various reasons why companies would implement ABM. Many of them implement to do upsell and cross-sell. Some of them implement to change perception. What Microsoft endeavored to do was to use account-based marketing to really help them directly establish better relationships with executives in what they call their enterprise accounts. You know, as we all know, Microsoft in the past and currently depends a lot on channels to resell their products and their services. But Microsoft made a strategic decision that by selling and bringing to market enterprise applications like CRM and ERP kinds of solutions, they needed to have better relationships with senior level decision makers inside of their target accounts. So they came to ITSMA and said, can you help us put together an account-based marketing program? And we worked with them and designed a very tailored program for them that began in North America and is now moving to other geographies. But what's really important about the Microsoft account-based marketing, and by the way, the case study about this is available on our website, ITSMA.com. What's interesting is that this has gotten very senior level visibility inside of Microsoft, and there are a lot of eyes on this because the goal is to really spread this concept across the world for Microsoft. And they developed a very intricate metrics and dashboard solution that they could then present on a regular basis to their senior management about the successes that they are achieving with their ABM program. And what's very interesting is that they are seeing greater presence in their enterprise accounts. They are seeing greater adoption of Microsoft solutions in these enterprise accounts. And that's a very interesting concept because one of the things that Microsoft was always trying to endeavor is getting greater adoption for the solutions that are currently installed in their account but may not be totally adopted throughout the organization. So they're using ABM to help target key decision makers in what they call their enterprise accounts and really can not just convince, but really work with them and build an executive level relationship with these people so that Microsoft consultants in effect become consultants to the business and IT executives in these targeted accounts.
Interesting what the experience that Microsoft is having with ABM. So for somebody watching the show, they're probably going to have a very simple question: is how do I get started with this approach? You know, what do I do first? So how would you answer?
Very interesting point. One of the recommendations we always make to people when they ask about how do we get started is to talk about, and the question I always ask is, have you already gone through your client base and tiered your accounts? Do you know who your most important accounts are, and do you know why they're your most important accounts? Because one of the things we do with our members is to take them through a process to establish what are the criteria that you're using to establish what you call your top accounts, key accounts, or named accounts. And what we find is that historically it has always been past revenue and potential opportunities. But we always find that there's a host of other things that become important. And one of the things that we do stress and becomes an integral part to the success of any account-based marketing program is the fact that we need sales buy-in to this. Account-based marketing is not just another marketing campaign. It is an integrated program between sales and marketing. So one of the questions we always ask is your account manager, your account executive, account director, whatever the title may be, a person who is willing to be open-minded and innovative in thinking and willing to accept another kind of approach to help him or her further penetrate the accounts that they're being held accountable for. Because what we have found is that if this is not the case, the attitude is going to be, you know, I'm doing okay, I'm making my numbers, I really don't need anybody else to help me do what I'm doing. But that account manager who's really open-minded is one that's going to be able to allow marketing to work with them as a strategic partner in the account to help them identify those key issues and work through the process that I've described before. So when we talk about getting started with account-based marketing, it's tiering of accounts, identifying those account teams that are open to new approaches and are willing to allow marketing to work with them as almost as a strategic peer in planning and implementing these targeted campaigns inside of the account.
Very interesting, and it really emphasizes the importance of marketing and sales working together. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that over and over. So Jeff, this has been a really interesting discussion. For people who want to engage more and learn more about ABM and you and what you're doing, where do you recommend they go? This is the final question I'm just going to ask. Okay?
There is a very robust ABM section on the ITSMA.com website, and I would encourage all of the listeners to go to learn a lot more about it. We haven't had a lot of time here to go into the detail, but the information on the website is really detailed. And the one thing I did want to talk about that we have made available to not only our members, but to other organizations who are interested in building an ABM program and may have dabbled in it a little bit, is we have launched the industry's first ABM certification training program, where we take senior level marketers, some of which may have had some limited experience in ABM, but most of them have not, and take them through a 3-month comprehensive, in-depth training program, and at the end they become certified in ITSMA's ABM methodology. And there's a lot more detail about that on our website too. If you go to our home page and scroll down a little bit, there's a button there that you can click on to learn about this certification program that's offered both here in North America and over in Europe.
I want to thank Jeff for being on the show and also mention the certification program. You don't have to go to ITMSA.com. You just click the button up here and it'll take you directly to the certification program. We put the call to action right in the show, so it makes it really easy for you. Again, I want to thank Jeff for being on the show. Great show, great idea, account-based marketing. Before we go, we want to thank our sponsors. Avatage does great content marketing, avatage.com. Digital Ethos is replaced with Social Media Club. Big organization. Communication Strategy Group, Brand Telling, great organization. Eloqua, Revenue Performance Management, and Watchatu provides this great show. Marketing Made Simple TV premieres every Thursday at noon. So till next week, we'll see you next time on Marketing Made Simple TV.